We're going to kick off with Mark Vincennes, accompanied. We have a special guest tonight. We have guitarist Manuel Santos, who is going to kick open our reading. When Mark will read and Manuel will accompany him. So we're going to have poetry with music tonight, which is wonderful. We invite musicians, by the way, to sign up on our open mics. So contact us if you are a musician. Let me tell you, I guess, who we are. I'll tell you again, but just for now, I want to tell you.
Don't forget to pronounce the T.
We are LIT BALM, not your lip, not your lip. We are LIT BALM, as in literary relief, as in literary anodyne, as in literary cure for your corona crisis woes. That's what we're here for. And we are Mark Vincennes, Jonathan Penton, and myself, Larissa Schmilo. I'm going to read Mark's bio. Mark Vincennes has published 14 books of poetry, ladies and gentlemen, 14, and they're all superb. That's the thing, they're all superb, including recently Leaning into the Infinite by Dos Madres. I reviewed that, by the way. Go to north of Oxford to see my review, or to the Dos Madres website to see my review of this unique and truly remarkable, highly literate and highly fun collection. Anyway, also Here Comes the Night Dust, coming from Salmon Poetry. Vincennes is also a prolific, well, prolific is his middle name. Vincennes is also a prolific translator and has published 10 books of translations. Most recently, Unexpected Development, from White Pine Press by award-winning Swiss poet and novelist Klaus Merz, and which was a finalist for the 2016 Cliff Becker Book Prize in Translation. His work has received fellowships. Hold on, this is a long list. His work has received fellowships and grants from the Swiss Arts Council, the Literary Colloquium Berlin, the National Endowment for the Arts, and the Witter-Binner Foundation for Poetry. And that will be and we will be opening with a wonderful musical piece by Mark and Manuel. Now I'd like to introduce my brilliant co-host, Jonathan Penton, who founded unlikelystories.org in 1998. So Jonathan has been doing this and has been an editor of remarkable experimental literature, has nurtured a lot of new voices into prominence through Unlikely Stories and his books and his books at Unlikely Books. He has lent editorial and management assistance to a number of literary and artistic venues, such as Mad Hat Inc. and Big Bridge. He has organized literary performances and performed himself in, okay, here we go, Arkansas, California, Chihuahua, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Louisiana, Massachusetts, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Oregon, Texas, and Washington State, and DC. His poetry books are Last Chap, Virgin Press, Blood and Salsa and Painting Rust, Unlikely Books, Prosthetic Gods, New Sins Press, Winged City Chapbooks, and Standards of Sedity from Litfest Press, and the free e-chapbook Backstories. The newest one is from Argus eBooks, and you can go to Argus eBooks and download a copy of that for free. Thank you, very generous. Gentlemen, tell us something while we have a couple of minutes as we're waiting to open. Tell me something about your titles from I better cue everybody on this. tonight's question is, how do you define poetry? So think about that. Can you fashion a 30-word response to that? Can you fashion a 50-word response to that? Can you fashion a response to that?
Don't forget also to mention who we have coming up in future broadcasts.
On April 25th, we have Harry Alluri and the one and only Annie Finch, editor of Choice Words, Writers on Abortion, which is new from Haymarket Books, a timely and brilliant collection that has Gloria Naylor, Gloria Steinem, Gwendolyn Brooks, Joyce Carol Oates, Kathy Acker, Langston Hughes, Amy Tan, hundreds of poets, Ursula Le Guin. So we're going to have Annie and Hari on the 25th, and we have a very special reading on May 2nd. We have Donald Ravel, Joseph Lease, and David Blair. So that's going to be a brilliant reading, and y'all should be coming around to that. And tonight we have Bob Holman, we have Indran Amirthanayagam, and we have the lovely and talented Carol Frost. I'm going to bring up Indran first, and then I'm going to bring up you, Carol, and then we'll close it out with close out the feature section with Bob.
May I smuggle in a hello to Carol Frost, whom I haven't seen in many decades, I think, since
that, Stephen.
yeah, since New York's Oneonta, right? I think, yeah.
Oneonta, yeah.
Yeah. And hi, Mark. Good to see you. Nice to talk to you yesterday.
Hi,
anyway,
Steve.
that's all. I didn't want to interrupt. I just wanted to say hello.
No, that's okay. Welcome, Steve. Thanks for coming.
Well, we're not officially starting till 5, so it's okay to have
okay. So it's okay to schmooze a little bit beforehand, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Mad Hat is bringing out Stephen's new book as well.
Very grateful.
Hopefully in October, as long as, shall we say, conditions allow. But that's
well, I hope it's out. I just don't know what it'll be out into.
Mm-hmm. So,
sure.
Mark, do you want to talk a little bit about the titles you have coming forth from Mad Hat?
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is, due to the pandemic that we're going in, and as Carol will attest to, having just brought out Carol's latest book, it's, I mean, of course, at this point in time, it is possible to get copies. Of course, if you order through the Mad Hat Press website, we will ship to you. I understand that Amazon has been a little bit slow. UPS sometimes actually declines delivery, or they'll send a message saying something to the effect, "We cannot deliver at this moment in time." And then it just appears when it appears. But so far, everyone has received their book. The question that is on my mind, which I know is also on Stephen's mind, is if we release a book, let's say in September, October, and we're still, shall we say, in crisis mode, we can't really get that much attention, or it's not possible to do obviously book launches and the like. I'm even concerned about some things like reviews in university journals and so on. But the show must go on, as they say, and of course it is a good time to read poetry more than ever. As far as books we have coming out, we have Stephen Kramer's new poetry collection is coming out. Kevin Gallagher, who just joined us, but is on mute at the moment. We have M.G. Stevens' new book coming out. We have a collection,
we will hear from Jonathan. I will read a poem, and then we'll go into the feature section of our program. Indran, you'll go first. Then Carol Frost will read, and then we'll bring up Mr. Bob Holman when he, who we hope will arrive shortly. It is now 5, and
Okay.
we are live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live.
Can I ask a question? Are people be able to see this directly on Facebook? The people
We're
who are-
streaming. We're live streaming. We're live streaming on Facebook.
Okay,
That's right.
wonderful.
No, I'm the one live streaming it, and my power just went out. I don't know if y'all can see that, but it says we're streaming again. It said it popped up with a little tone and told me this meeting is being streamed live on Facebook. So you know.
It looks like it's frozen on Facebook at the moment, actually.
Okay.
Sort of, on and off.
Okay.
But let's see how it goes. I don't know if it's related to Facebook or some kind of server somewhere.
Sometimes Facebook has a volume problem where, as do all the live stream issues, when too many people are on the web at the same time, the system slows down or sometimes crashes. So we're hoping our live stream. How's the live stream status now, Jonathan?
It says it's rolling.
Oh, so we're rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
good enough. That's it. So we are Lit BALM.
Yeah, it says we're live.
We are Lit BALM, and we are live. And our hosts are Jonathan Penton, Mark Vincenz, and yours truly, Larissa Schmeiler. And we will be starting at 5:05 with a reading by Mark Vincenz and his accompanist Manuel Santos. Then we're going to hear from Jonathan. Are you reading your own work tonight, Jonathan, or are you reading work from somebody else?
I'm going to read a poem by Michael Daly.
Okay, and a poem by Michael, and then I will read a poem, and then we'll go into the feature portion of our program, and then we will have our open mic. So our question for today, which I'm going to be asking all of you, is how do you define poetry? And I'm wondering if you can come up with a 30-word answer to that. How do you define poetry? Let me put you totally on the spot. Mark, you came up with the question. What's the answer?
Well, of course, there are many answers. My personal answer is a poem is a song. And it's as simple as that. It is, shall we say, its roots are the beginnings of human communication. Of course, we have become more rare on many levels than we once were. As we all know, in the olden days, there were poets in all sorts of royal households. There were poets on the street who actually captivated the general public because, of course, there were few lesser forms of entertainment. Today, of course, we're inundated with all sorts of forms, including the one that we're using right now. But yes, for me, poetry is a song.
Poetry is a song. Well, for me, poetry is a remarkable juxtaposition of words that also brings insight. So that's my idea of a poem. Jonathan, you want to chime in? What do you think poetry is? Define it.
Sure. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to come at it from the perspective of a creative. And the first thing you try to do is you try to sit down and you try to create something beautiful, or something meaningful, or ideally both. what I do is actually fairly conventional poetry. You know, it looks like poetry, it acts like poetry, it talks like poetry, but at the same time, I hope that whenever I sit down, I don't try to write poetry. I try to create something beautiful, meaningful, and or exciting. So yeah, I don't want to get too tied down in, you know, what is a thing. It's a question of what is it beautiful? Is it meaningful? Is it exciting to absorb?
Is it beautiful? Is it meaningful? Is it necessary?
Yeah.
Necessary. Welcome.
I have a very, very practical, boringly practical definition.
What's that? Let's hear it.
Okay. Well, you first have to exclude prose poems, which I do, even though I write them, but I don't call them prose poems. I call them pieces of prose. A poem is literary language where the line matters as much as the sentence. It's as simple as that, and as complicated as that.
It's complicated as that. Okay, we will be returning to this question throughout our reading. We welcome you if you've just joined us. We are LIT BALM, lit as in literary, balm as in anodyne, balm as in relief for what ails you with corona. BALM, B-A-L-M, although we are the balm, of course. And we come to you from the Berkshires of Massachusetts, from New Orleans, from Florida, from New York City, and from your epicenter to ours today. So, okay, I guess it's time to start our program. And I am delighted to present the award-winning poet Mark Vincenz, one of our hosts for this series. Mark is going to read a poem, and what is the name of the poem, Mark?
The name of the poem is When a Single Secret World is Spoken.
When a single secret word is spoken is...
Not word, world.
Oh, world. When a
single secret world is spoken.
And this will be accompanied by Manuel Santos on guitar. Gentlemen, open us up, take us out, take us in.
Finding the confessor in the invisible king. The king of pantomime puts it on. He's putting it over big in the thigh, in his ruffled crepe cuff, in his chignon eye. Never mind. It will be fine on the night. I am a shooting star in the real never, never land. And in the sound of a thought, waiting for spores to release from the heat of the soul. Oh, they're insane for the floodlight. Now you're a turbulent guest in a memorable fancy, the Punch and Judy of things past. An object of desire, thumped over the head, and that melting in the air. An instant falling silent as birds in a dark forest, circling the ceiling for 1,000 years to find a good perch. Each evening after dinner, I pour out the wine for the invisible ones and their furious lives, a music stretched out across the water, and the spirit surging through the veins of the mountain, and those millions of particles filling the capillaries of my heart. Yet off in the distance, the landscape like a line of ancient Persian script, or perhaps something faintly Japanese. And when the light bulb goes out over the all-night city, I spit out the wind buried in the muscles of my throat. Jesus, I'm burning for another hot summer, dreaming of turning back into liquid, to flow where nothing can be caught out as a symbol of anything else, and drink the blood of broken trees, of broken trees.
And drink the blood of broken
trees.
trees. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Mark Vincenz, and thanks for the accompaniment. Manuel Santos, ladies and gentlemen, give him a hand. Come on. Okay, good enough. All right, Jonathan, my friend, Jonathan Penton, editor.
All right.
Editor of Unlikely Books. Who are you reading again? Who is the poet you're going to read it from tonight?
This is Michael Daly. I'm not as prolific a poet as Mark or Larissa, but I am a prolific editor and publisher over at www.unlikelystories.org. We run something to read 4 days a week, most weeks. And we recently ran this by Michael Daly. It's called Relentless is the Order. Cued in our stockings and socks before TSA, its familiar mechanism for scrutiny enfolds us. We meek, we patient, we mild jokesters for whom officers pretend ease as ICE gazes, appraise old photos, beardless visages. Familiar too, the uniform memorialized instructions rung above a human hum, conveying our luggage, our wealth, icons, joys, our meds, odd shoes. We rush, we meek, we halt, we limp, we pissed, we ordered in this primal relationship, bag-lugging cue and guard, a comfort in a way, willingly to herd behind the gesture. Enter the device, valuables belong here, pockets shall be empty. When did this begin? Was there a border to cross with our immigrant impurities into Egypt? A line of soiled beseechers and attendants at the emperor's gate, subject to pat down. Who's to say whether, with our smeared passports, we meek, we loving innocence, arrive at divine gates, scanned by wan, humbled to exhausted tears, the child led away by strangers' fingers as we step into the next line? We travel is eternal, inert, in shock, we wait.
Okay, our icons and our meds, a poem for our time. Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Mr. Daly in absentia. I'll read a poem. Okay, this is called, and I am Larissa Schmilo, by the way, your MC for the evening, co-host with Mark Vincenz and Jonathan Penton, and I am the author of 9 books, and I have my latest poetry collection is Dora Laura, which is coming out from Salmon. And I have CDs, which are on all Spotify, and my CDs are Exorcism in the No Net World, and they're on Google, YouTube, Music, Spotify, all major distributors. Please download and give me a fraction of a cent of your streaming income. Thank you so very, very much. And I will read the poem, Skin. Skin. My tongue is bruised. My nude is creaky. Like a cabbage, I sit and wait for you. I stutter like an old gun. Take me, know the fast love of my hair. Your beady little eyes transfix me like rats at the foot of my bed. Your limp pendant wrists still hang on my door. You snicker, get a grip. Your skin is a labyrinth. I follow like a duct. I follow the duct of your eyes like a skein to the combinatory bull. Eyes forward, now toward where I leap for the horns. Won't you come in, he sighs. You own too big a piece of me. Your eyes say spare some change, and I don't want to. I take and give no quarter, and I've already cut my hair. Skin is just sausage we call home. Skin is just sausage we call home. Thank you.
Bravo.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will now move into the feature portion of our program, and we are very happy to be featuring tonight. Correct my pronunciation here, Indran Amirthanayagam.
Amirthanayagam, very good, yes.
Amirthanayagam, good enough. Let me tell you something about Indran, who, as you can see, is reading from a tropical island today. Good to see you.
It's
Indran.
called Rockville Beach.
Rockville Beach. The magic of Zoom, the magic of Zoom backgrounds. We have Indran Amirthanayagam writes in English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, and Haitian Creole. He has published 17 poetry collections about to be released: The Migrant States from Hanging Loose Press, Coconuts on Mars from Paperwall, and En Busca de Posada, editorial Apogeo Lima, and Palo Nueve, Manifalsa Lima. The Elephants of Reckoning from Hanging Loose, que l'île n'est de solitude que l'île lointain, Legs Edition Haiti, and Penton Azul. In music, he has released Rencondu, available to download from all digital distributors, all the music stores. He directs poetry at The Port, a monthly spoken word series at Port-au-Prince Restaurant in Silver Spring. He is on the board of directors of DC All, Association of Literary Translators. Amirthanayagam is a 2020 grantee in poetry from the Foundation for the Contemporary Arts. Congratulations, Indran.
Thank you.
He has also received fellowships from the Foundation for the Contemporary Arts, the New York Foundation for the Arts, the U.S.-Mexico Fund for Culture, and the MacDowell Colony. And without further ado, let me introduce Indran. Indran, take it away.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm going to read 3 poems from the new book, The Migrant States, which will be out any day now from Hanging Loose Press. And I'd like to finish with 1 poem from my last book, Coconuts on Mars. And I just want to mention just one additional item. I edit now the Beltway Poetry Quarterly, which is a quarterly magazine online, and invite you poets listening to take a look at beltwaypoetry.com and consider sending work for upcoming issues. The migrants reply, "We have been running for so long. We are tired. We want to rest. We don't want to wake up tomorrow and pack our bags. We have gone 10,000 miles. We have boarded a rowboat, tugboat, bus, freight train. We have a cell phone and some bread. Our eyes are dry. Our breath needs washing. What next? You are putting up a wall on your southern flank. What an irony. The country that accepts refugees does not want us. We qualify. We have scars, and our host governments hunted at least some of us. The rest fled in fear. Gangs do not spare even the children. White vans took away our uncles, our cousins. Do you think they've been made into plowshares? Aye, what are you saying? Too easy to wear our hearts in these words, in slings, on our faces, furrowed, perplexed. What happened to kindness to strangers? Why do we have to be herded like prisoners held in a holding camp? We are human beings, and like you in safer countries, we have the same obligation to save ourselves and our children. Oh, the children, look at them. Give them food and school and a new set of clothes. Give them a chance. Whether you are red or blue, the eye of the hurricane does not discriminate. We are your tumbling weeds, hurling cars, flooding banks, and we are diggers of the dikes. We can teach you so many languages and visions. You would learn so much. You would never, ever say, lock us up. Now, all these poems in this book were written in the AC period, the pre-coronavirus period. And yet the book is coming out now. And just, now, one of the characters in the book is Walt Whitman. And I write a number of poems responding to Walt's poems. This one is, was written on his 200th birthday. It's called Walt 200. Break the locks, unleash the mind. Walt Whitman has left Paumanok. He is abroad. He is sitting among us in our soul. He flies the post with pigeons and the giant freight planes. He hops freight trains and rides into Mexico. He's on a P&O cruise visiting St. Kitts in Barbados. He has joined the Merchant Marine. He sails into Guantanamo. He throws fish into the sea in search of whales. He has the biggest, longest beard in the world. He jives, thrives, cavorts, shimmers. He is 200 years old today, and he does not give a flying rat. He's in your mind, Mr. President, even if you cannot smother or scratch or squeeze him out. He is gloriously spirit, gadfly, rabbit, and sloth. He nurses our democratic wounds. He knows how to write history from the pebble's view, the side glance of the wren, the snake hanging in the tree. He is black and white and all shades of gray. He is our friend and guide, and he will elect us every time we fall down. Let us go back to Paumanok with what we've learned these 200 years. Let us go back to set forth again, Walt Whitman in our backpack. And then this short little poem called Prelude, which I used to be a New York poet, and I became a poet in New York. My first book resulted from readings on the stages, at various stages, from church basements to living rooms to clubs in the city. And so I was just in the city just a few weeks ago. So this traumatic, this terrible scourge that the city and suffering in particular is on my mind. As I recite to you this poem about an earlier New York and I hope a future New York, Prelude. To live on the island satisfied basic needs, poetry readings in the evenings, noodled curries, belly dancing and love, and gardens, famous writers on street corners, monuments, chestnuts, ice and hibiscus, movies filmed in the fruit market, and paintings in grand salons, and love, and smacking bites of a burger with a pint, the jeweled eye of a fish, a tailor who survived the number branded on his arm, the delight of lingering over a glass of wine, a chat in love, sunrise and sunset over two splendid rivers. And thank you. And I'll stop there and I'd like to read one more poem, if I may, from the book Coconuts on Mars, which you can find online through Paperwall Press. Or you can visit my website, indranmx.com, and find information about my books. And this poem, it's the last poem in this particular book. It's called Living Will. And I'll finish with this. One day, I will sit down with my soul and write that I've loved every bird that flew, every monkey on the branch, every elephant charging through the grass. I will say I love you as much as the baby gecko scampering past my foot, the snake rustling under the wood cut and stacked in my yard. I will say I have loved every creature, every song, every turn in the road, and I will be lying with my eyes open and my eyes closed. I am not God. I am not even the dog loyal to his master who misses him blind, like his daughter in Lima, which I call at night until the next time we meet in dreams, via chat, cheek to cheek, remembering always that in paradise there are no trains or roads or seas or death, no going away, no arriving, doors and garden open, souls who come and go smiling, and all the angels, all birds, all dolphins, all men and women in song dancing, and why not reciting the Song of Solomon, the epic poems, the love songs that consoled when we set off on the roads, hopped on trains and aeroplanes, got caught in traffic in our head, and said goodbye before saying hello. Did I know you down there? You were the greengrocer I walked past going to school in London. Oh, my dear, how beautiful you are, Pauline, with ripe red hair, who shared the religion prize with me at St. Vincent's on Blandford Street. But you may be alive still, and I'm not ready to meet my maker, to be plucked from the cycle of rebirth. Not yet. I have poems to compose, children to raise, earth to cultivate. Come back later, angel. I have my will to revise. Thank you so much for this.
Come back later, Angel.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Indran, Indran, I would like to ask Indran, please. Our question for the evening is, how do you define poetry? Can you give us your idea on that?
Yeah, well, I've had a few minutes to think about it because you asked the question earlier. But I think I will say making love with words. I would say it's a kind, poetry is a sort of word music, you know. It's the instrument is the voice, and the words are the notes, and so we have to make music with our words. At least we celebrate the music of the spheres that we hear all around about us, the music of the birds, the music of whales. So we hear all that, and we make our own music. You see, we too contribute to this wonderful chorus, the wonderful evening song and morning song that we hear around us. And so that is poetry for me. It's a sort of response to this beauty, with making of beauty, even in times of great suffering, making that affirming flame, you know, that Auden talked about. That same Auden said, poetry makes nothing happen. I've always railed against that phrase. I think poetry makes everything happen. At the same time, he also said, he also wrote that line about an affirming flame. And I think that's what poetry is, an affirming flame. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Making love with words. I love that very much. I love that very much. Thank you so much. Give it up, ladies and gentlemen. Give it up for Indran.
Thank you.
Okay, splendid, splendid. All right, our next reader is Carol Frost. Carol Frost's books include Alias City, which is from Mad Hat 2020, Honeycomb, Tri-Quarterly Books, Northwestern University Press, Love and Scorn, Pure, and The Salt Lesson from Grey Wolf. Her poems have been published in 4 Pushcart Prize anthologies and in magazines across the country. Some of these publications include American Poetry Review, Antaeus, The Atlantic, Gettysburg Review, Georgia Review, Harvard Review, the New York Times, New Republic, New Letters, the Paris Review, Plowshares, Prairie Schooner, Poetry, and Poetry International. Well, that's pretty impressive. Frost was poetry co-editor with Martha Collins of Pushcart Prize 28. And in 2005, she was on the poetry panel of judges for the National Book Award. She is the recipient of 2 NEA fellowships. She directs the Winter with the Writers Festival of the Literary Arts at Rollins College, where she holds the Theodore Bruce and Barbara Lawrence Alfond Chair in English. And in 2019, she was named a chancellor for the Florida State Poets Association. Please help me welcome Carol Frost. Carol, take it away.
Hey, hi everyone. Thank you for the introduction. I'm also glad to be here. I have felt a little bit with Alias City, my new book, the book that was so well done by Mark Vincennes. Thank you so much, Mark. I do feel a little bit like it's a dime, and because of the virus, it's a dime dropping into the Pacific Ocean from 36,000 feet. But that's just the way it is. So what I'd like to do today is just read you 3 poems. I'll read you 2 poems and then a couple of short segments written in a second voice, also in Alias City. So this is called Song of the City at Night, and it's set near Hellgate Bridge in Astoria, Queens. Whatever hid the sun and moon inside a mountain brought city there to found the night, where a city swans on river water, laving with light each passing wake, mesmerizing a couple on the river brink. They seem unaware what is myth or real, taken up, as it were, by a swan's bill and flown to a milk water world where it's possible to drink only the milk and eat pearls. A gunshot, a siren interrupts the quiet. Something is thrown into the river, then the swan is mute. To sing of this, the swan would have to out-swan itself. Sibelius, out Sibelius, Sibelius. Okay, that's the first one. And here's another poem called How Music Came into the City. I'll start again. How music came into the city. From wild half-peopled hills, I have brought to you streets, 66 birds, rare species of hummingbird and frightened little finch with their beaks sealed shut so they would not be heard singing until I arrived. I sewed them inside my clothing, simple songs, past hearing for the days where silent snow mocks stone and loud voices voice the wasted breath. Already can you dream the rubied merriment when I open my coat and unspool the ribbon from their beaks, and the hat break when a soul bird falls earthward as if from a golden tree. Listen now for the key of what has been a tiny magnitude pouring myrrh and wind onto the avenues, rustle in the undertones. It will take you back to the hills and take the hills away. So those 2 poems are in one of the voices in the book. There is a second voice of 8 short sections signed RF. RF is Renee Fellner, who immigrated to the US after World War II. The poems are mixing prose and haiku. They're written in homage to Renee Fellner's late invention of herself, a woman who refused to talk about the past and then lost the words where she might have spoken about it. So here are just 2 sections I want to keep under my 3 pages. And this first one by RF. Evening light rushing back, rushing away. What I felt at what I saw in return to Stephansdom, Hat's sweet wren and roar, and by Linden's every spring. The mind goes and the past fits itself around the ankles of what may have been. I'd love the ones I left in Wien, memory told me. Memory said, "You haven't the right." Exhausted, I fell asleep thinking of the myth of the mantis who, in its exhaustion, was laid on a floating flower. In its thigh a seed was left, all people came to life, and nothing yet themselves asked, "Why am I here?" and answered them, "To see what comes." Years collect each night from low and high and fling them like dots at a child. That's my 3 pages.
Carol Frost, ladies and gentlemen, give it up, please. It's wonderful. Carol, so that's very beautiful. To see what, why are we here? To see what comes. That sounds like a definition of poetry to me. May I ask you our question for the evening? How
Yes.
do you define poetry?
I define it differently than I used to. More and more, I think of poetry as possibility. I still think that language can be raised into ceremony, but I love the idea of noise. That's really from my friend Stephen Dobbins, who said poetry is not music, poetry is noise. And I heard that years ago, and it changed a lot about how I look at poetry. And now I still think language lifted to ceremony, but I think of different sorts of ceremony, which includes everything that that has been said already, I think, and perhaps what is to come, and we'll see what is to come.
That's wonderful. Thank you so very much, Carol Frost. Okay, at this point, I'd like to ask, do we have Bob Holman in the house?
Has anyone heard from him?
It appears that Bob is not on Zoom.
Maybe he can't get in, maybe, but it looks like we don't have Bob Holman in the house.
I couldn't, I had some problems myself. I mean, I've not been able to be seen or heard throughout this whole thing, and I just managed to get my phone to pick up. Did he get the
I'm going to look at my
URL and the password?
Mark, host for a minute. I'm going to check my email. Okay.
Sure.
Indran, we may be able to both read another poem.
Yes, why not? Why not?
If Bob doesn't show.
That's a great idea.
Why don't you start, Indran, with another poem?
All right. Let's see. All right, I'll read the title poem of Coconuts on Mars, this book here. And it goes like, it's a prose poem, and it goes like this. I have left my other languages to sit in the troughs of their foreign pens, snorting beautiful and strange cries, to be visited someday when I've gathered the force again to leap beyond the white cliffs, to crash into the sea between island and old continent. But I forget my birth under a coconut tree. I forget too that I found fan-tailed palm trees when I visited Cornwall. You can imagine the perplexed grin I sported that weekend, the sun warming my skin in St. Ives as we walked among those English palms. I did not find the king coconut, agreed, but a cousin, a relation. We're all blood coursing through veins, each white and red cell identical in shape and substance, no matter the different clothes and names and histories we sport on our bodies, in our heads. I am rich in cells, and some are dividing still. Turmeric stops the decline, persistence, repetition of sums, writing certainly, the ever-present chance of discovery, the blue canopied forest, a finch unlike any other, you, my dear, reading these lines. I can see through every glass in my mind. In short, let us not build any frontiers, as there are no strangers. In short, I compose this meditation in English, but anticipate a translating tool will transform my words into every other language on the planet. Ah, what a silly fantasy. As I write, the last speaker of a tribe in the Amazon forest will die. As I write, the trapped finch will bleed from the wire and lie down to die. As I write, a coconut tree will grow in an open-air hothouse on the Cornish coast. As I write, 6,000 loaves will sprout and 60,000 fish fly from one loaf, one fish in the hands of a miracle maker. As I write, my fingers will rest, no need to type. My voice will guide the keys. As I write, I imagine the young Thambili sweet water coconut, tasty to drink, will be served outside the hothouse. As I write, scowl and sadness will turn to smiles and hoorays. That was a grand thirst quencher, my dear Cornish scientist. Congratulations. To engineering survival, let us raise our glasses.
That's lovely. And may it be translated into all the languages of the world. You could do a substantial portion.
I will try out.
That's so splendid. Thank you, Indran. Carol, will you grace us with another poem, please?
Sure. I was thinking maybe I'd read you the title poem, but I decided to do something else. This is called City of the Ridiculous. And there are cities you'll recognize in here. The book is all about cities. Ilya Kaminsky asked me about 3 years ago, Carol, he said, Carol, nobody who writes lyric poetry I know of writes poems about cities. I said, I can't do it. I don't live in cities. And he just came after me and came after me. So that's why the book is here. City of the Ridiculous. Ridiculous we all the long, bright days without death, without the suicide leap, comic as sex, hips and asses, sweat, rush. All our acts become gestures of our acts. The litter of the years has been swept into another precinct. A few steps ahead of us, death. And we are left to ourselves without the means to revenge, to throw our bodies at ourselves, be the voice of besieging sorrow we cannot, be the wintry sound as of cold spirals of wind in empty lots by which those given a cot and a bowl of greasy soup feel blessed. It's not in us. A cry of art, rid of ridiculous us. The very air is rid of air. We play videos endlessly. We daydream death in a forest, on a cliff, over the sea of Japan, in Madrid, Alcala 237. The matador's gaiety and elegance in nearness to the massive head, the natural beast, death, in a suit of lights. With wanton thrusts of hips, he fans death with a gory cape, wrapped in fire, darkest, pivoting fire, at the last second or the second honors snuffed, ethos stilled, and death lives.
Elegance and nearness. Very, very, very beautiful poetry. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Okay, it appears that we do not have Bob Holman in the house. We don't know what happened, but
I think we should go straight to the open mics then. Yeah.
I think we can go on to the open mic. I would like to tell you who we have coming up for our features on the 25th, April 25th, and on May 2nd. April 25th, we have Annie Finch and Hari Alluri. And we have a very special reading on May 2nd. We have Donald Ravel, Joseph Leese, and David Blair. So please check in with us. And yes, we can now go on to the open section of our reading. And we have for us Dennis Formento, Gabrielle Lennon, and Carol Dorff. Are you here? No, okay, good enough. So let us start with Dennis Fermento does. Dennis, tell us something about yourself.
You got to unmute, Dennis.
Yeah.
You're still on mute.
Oh, here we
There
go.
you go.
Hi there.
Hello.
Let's see. Born in New Orleans, raised in Metairie, Louisiana, lived in New Orleans most of my life. Attended University of New Orleans, Naropa Institute, which is now called Naropa University, and the University of Colorado. And then I came back here in 1989 and got myself mixed up in a whole bunch of anarchist political stuff and worked with a bioregional magazine called Mesachabi, which eventually christened itself the Journal of Surregionalism. Got involved in music and poetry. Had a free jazz, free verse band called the Frank Zapatistas for a few years. That was fun. There was another Frank Zapatista somewhere, but they really did Frank Zappa. They were Frank Zappa tribute band, you know, which probably would have made Frank curse. What? You're doing what? You know.
Okay, Dennis, let us hear your poem tonight.
Okay. Hang on. Oops. I didn't know it would come on so fast. Well, not so fast, but I'm just not. I was not paying attention. I'm sorry. Let me read something that Jonathan said he's interested in running in unlikely stories. This is a poem. There were two of these, and they came on subsequent nights. My wife and I were in Italy, and I was reading Ovid. You're supposed to read Ovid in Italy, I suppose. And these two poems came up that seemed like they were emblematic of something, and they tell the Phaeton story in two different takes. The first one is called Phaeton Drives His Car into the Sea. Phaeton drives his car into the sea. There's big quotation marks around this. Phaeton drives his car into the sea. From high-topped apogee, he drives it, he drops it flaming into the sea. Oh, yes, he does. Phaeton drives his father's favorite car, plunging into the sea. Oh, yeah, drove it he. A boy, scarcely a man, he begged his father's favor. He drove Apollo's horses from the ocean to the sky, from underneath the waves, from where the sunlight comes. Apollo, no moonshot he, but the god of sun and time, who daily drove the sun from dawn to dusk, up one world till noon, and down to dusk, up the other side of the sky, and down again, with scarcely a second to breathe between. Climbing against the spinning world, first up, then down. The boy believed, as was his right, that he was the son of the god. Apollo had taken him into his home and given him bright raiments to wear, called him his boy and set Phaeton on his knee. Clymene's son, a mortal man, mortal woman, who set Apollo's heart aflame. No, your mother is no liar, said the god. And anyway, who can fool a god? What woman can convince immortal gods that her child is his? The gods, whoever and whatever they are not stupid, and even if they don't know everything. And so the god Apollo was sitting at his desk, and who knows how he had time for that, writing the story of the gods, because he was in charge of epic poetry too, and was intent upon his finishing this chapter in the minutes before dawn, when he was bound by the laws of the universe to skip from sundown in one sea to sunrise in another. Gods can do these things. And the boy, like I said, you can scarcely call him a man, came to his father, mindful of the things the other kids said about him: half mortal, not immortal, strong but not all powerful, no match for the other kids of gods he had known all his life. And they knew it, and the barbs they flung at him, dipped in poison, tipped with warheads harder than steel, shafts to drive them home. Phaeton hardly ruled his class, so he intended to set things straight. His father, because that's what the other gods said, he was fine with that. And because he loved Clymene, although he had had some other woman here and there, and he told them, and they all loved him in his way. His father wanted to raise his son in the other's eyes, even though he knew the boy would never be a god. It's not something aspirational. You've got to be in it all the way. Apollo raised his head, looked at his son, propped the boy's head in hand, and said, "What do you want?" The flaming car flung itself through guardrails, impending death. 4,400 horses, flames burned the clouds of heaven, scorched the sky. Black, blue, black rage. The curtain of heaven burned. The sea boiled. Crazy men fished for rocks in the sea and took them home to broil for dinner.
Wonderful, Dennis. Okay, Dennis, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And we would like to hear from you. What is your definition of poetry?
Well, I never really want to answer that question because
you don't have to. You don't have to. If you don't want to. If you don't want to.
In my life, I'm kind of tired of theory. I mean, I write poetry because I always used to say I write poetry because I never could play music. And I mean, I've often written with the sense that I was doing something with words that was musical, but there are so many different ways, and so many different ways I've written. I mean, I'm a victim of workshops as much as the next one in a way. I've learned many different ways of writing, and I think sometimes it left me rather confused. Is really what I'm supposed to do,
Thank you.
I mean, at this point, I'm trying to write in order to make verbal music, to make something that is performative and informative and inspiring and expressive, and everything that language poetry wasn't supposed to be. And just try to live.
Sounds good to me. Thank you. Thank you, Sim.
And where else you go with that is your business.
Okay. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you very much. I would like to read what DeWitt Henry has sent us on our chat. He said, "By the way, according to Sydney, poetry is that which calls old men from the chimney corner and children from their play." Beautiful. Thank you for that. Okay, next up on the open mic is Gabrielle Lennon in the house. Gabrielle.
Hi, you guys.
Hi, Gabrielle. Gabrielle, tell us about your show, Touch Me Real.
Oh, okay. Well, I wrote a one-woman solo show. It is full-length play, theater play, and it is, I got a very large individual artist grant to act in it and then to follow it by teaching writing and acting classes on writing and acting material from one's own life. And the play is based on, keyword based, because of course I made a lot up, so it's fictionalized, but based on my experience of my best friend in college who I was in love with getting sudden onset paranoid schizophrenia. So sort of like When Harry Met Sally meets Titanic. Yeah.
That's wonderful. It is a beautiful piece. I've read it, and it is beautiful and raw and gorgeous. Thank you so much, Gabrielle. Will you give us a poem tonight?
Sure. I am going to read the opening poem from my book, After Midnight, a Book of Poetry. And this poem is called Ha Ha, footnote on the title, as in the word for mother in Japanese when it's your mother versus someone else's mother, inspire and inspiration in Hawaiian, and the sounds of laughter and of breath. So that's the title, Ha Ha. A universe of joy, fountain dancing through my body, sparkling, laughing in my lips, leaps to my heart, turning my womb over on its comet light year way. They're like a spark, igniting all my cells. Fireworks laughing in my orgasm of light, cascading shower of me-made stars, fire flowers. My body feels like people's heart, soft, supple, flowing, alive. My stomach is soft and feminine. My breasts and thighs beautiful to wrap and feel. Hold, hug, woman, I receive with my thighs and breasts and stomach that feel so perfect suddenly after years of work inside my head to get here. And it's not bragging to say so. Media, mom, social conditioning, Playboy, the royal finger to you all. Finally inside me, the life that's been wanting and waiting to come out is. It's easier to be with myself than intimate with someone else. But now I, alive, fireball, quiet inside, boundless, want to make love, feel the passion rise and flow between us, in us, through us, one to the other one. Hot springs, healing, steaming water from the earth's core. I want more. I've bathed in a gift from the depths of our planet. Mother, a different kind, one I can roll naked in the mud on, bathe in her water and wind, in my hair, through my thighs, as I stretch at the seaweed sunrise. There is everything like the ocean, running water over rocks and seagulls. Salty smells, sunlight sparkling diamonds dancing on miles of sea. Wrap my legs around it all, unbounded, ecstatic, free.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Gabrielle, our question for the evening: how do you define poetry?
That is a good question. I don't have a definition, but I just have thoughts. I liked very much the thing about making love with words. I think it's also making hatred with words, and making any strong, I'm not making, but activating and tapping any strong emotion in its like purest, crystal meth form with words. It's concentrated words that express things that hopefully matter. Yeah.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Thank you very much. I don't think we have Carol. Do we have Carol Dorff on the line?
No, we don't, but we have someone who's in the audience who would like to read. So I think we can do one more open mic. What do you say? That would be Nia Morgan.
That sounds wonderful. Nia, would you grace us with a poem?
Yes, I would. Thank you. So the poem that I'm going to read is called Neon, and it's part of a collection that I am currently writing involving the periodic table. Neon, the glow of El Cortez and the purple skyline of Las Vegas, like the sliver of light that parted the rock where Jesus crawled from, or the nostalgic truth that comes from humming Roxanne, when that part of your life fogs your memory, odorless and non-toxic.
Thank you, Nia. Thank you very much. Our question: how do you define poetry?
I feel that poetry is the idea of digesting with all of your senses.
Digesting with all of your senses. That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for tonight. Please join us. Please join us next week when we have Annie Finch and Harry Alluri. And join us on May 2nd when we have Donald Revelle, Joseph Lease, and David Blair. I would like to thank Indran and Carol for their features tonight. And Manuel, would you like to give us a little outro?
Looks like Manuel is doing something else.
Maybe Annalise and Andre should sign up to read in the open mic next week, get them in advance.
I think that's a good idea, yeah.
Okay, good enough.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Does the video remain on Facebook after the reading?
No, but I'll upload it to YouTube.
Oh, it's on YouTube. Okay, great. look forward to tell people about it. Yeah.
Okay, yes. And
Mark, can
John,
I ask a question?
Please.
The best way to buy Mad Hat books would be to just buy them from your website.
That is right.
Is Carol's book available now?
Absolutely, it is.
Great.
www.madhatpress.com.
Thank you, Stephen.
You're very well, and I'm supporting. I love it, and I'm also supporting the house I live in.
Well, thanks so much, everyone, for turning out tonight, and stay safe, of course. Any last words from you, Larissa or Jonathan?
Jonathan, do you want to tell them about our new website?
Sure, yeah, www.litbalm.org, all one word, LITBALM. It's just links to the Zoom meeting, to the Facebook group, and to the YouTube channel where we put our archives. Just a very simple site, but you know, people lose track of the Zoom meeting, so it's you can just go to www.litbalm.org and find it.
And you can link directly to our Zoom, and you can go to our YouTube page there, and you can activate our Facebook page there too, right?
You got a regular monopoly out there.
Well,
Can I get in? Oops, sorry.
Sure. Go ahead.
Can I get in touch with DeWitt Henry, who was an editor of mine at Plowshares many years ago?
Absolutely. I'll email you his email address.
Okay, good.
If I may, I'd like to this is the first time I've witnessed one of these. And I don't know about other people, but the future doesn't look as bad as it did 2 hours ago.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We are interactive, and we have to deal with the quirks of our medium, which is dropped internet and missing poets and
of our world.
But we muddle on, and we are live on Facebook now, and we are now saying farewell to you. Thanks again.
Farewell.
Thank you.
Farewell.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
And
Take care.
we will love like dogwood, kiss like cranes, die like moths. I promise. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.